Imagine this. It is just past 9. The house has finally gone quiet. The dishes are drying. Someone down the hall is already asleep. And you are alone with that tight, unfamiliar weight sitting right in the middle of your chest. Not the kind of pain you imagined. Not the way they show it on screen. Just a pressure, a heaviness, something that feels deeply, quietly wrong. Now imagine that, in those next few seconds, your body knows exactly what to do. Your hands move before fear locks them. You dial the number, you get to the floor. You do the 3 things, in order. And when the crew walks through the door, you are still conscious, still breathing, still you. That is not a miracle. That is what this video is going to build into you. I'm Dr. Sophia, and I have spent close to 2 decades inside emergency cardiology. I have run code blues at 3 in the morning. I have watched someone come back, and I have watched someone not. And after everything I have seen, I can tell you the outcome almost never comes down to luck. It comes down to what the person did, or did not do, in the first 3 minutes. Those 3 minutes are the entire reason this video exists. But I have to tell you one thing before we go any further. There is a single detail, one thing, about your own brain that decides whether everything I am about to teach you will actually work when your life is on the line. I will not get to it until the end, so do not skip. Do not jump to the timestamp. Without that piece, none of the rest is worth much. We start with recognition, because the number one reason people lose those first few minutes is not the heart itself. It is the person not realizing, in time, what is happening inside them. Hollywood gave everyone the same picture. A man grabs his chest, staggers, drops. It happens. But it is the exception, not the rule. Most of the time, the symptoms creep in slowly, sometimes over minutes, sometimes over hours. And in that slow build, the brain gets very busy rationalizing. Indigestion, a pulled muscle, stress, tired, too much salt last night, something else entirely. What most people actually feel is a pressure, a heaviness, sometimes described as a burning, right in the center of the chest. It does not have to be sharp. It does not have to be dramatic. It often spreads, quietly, into the left arm, into the jaw, into the upper back, between the shoulder blades. Cold sweat that shows up out of nowhere, even though you have not moved. Breath that becomes shallow for no clear reason. A wave of dizziness. And underneath all of it, a feeling that something is wrong in a way you cannot quite name. That last one matters. It is your body telling your brain the truth before language catches up. Listen to it. I had a patient, years ago, 58 years old, no major risk factors on paper. She came in 5 days after her symptoms began. 5 full days. She had been blaming reflux from a family dinner because the discomfort sat high in her stomach, never the dramatic sternum pain she had always heard about. By the time she walked into my office, part of the muscle was already gone. She had been waiting for a symptom that was never going to come for her specifically. Which brings me to something I need every woman over 60 to hear, and to weigh against what she has been told her whole life. The presentation of a cardiac event in women, particularly after 60, can look almost nothing like what you just heard. The research on this is not new. It has been there for decades. It is just not shouted loudly enough. Women in this group often experience a cardiac event without anything that registers as classic chest pain at all. What they get instead is a sudden, crushing fatigue. Not the kind that comes from a bad night. Not the kind a coffee fixes. The kind that arrives out of nowhere and feels almost as if the world briefly tilted beneath them. Upper abdominal discomfort that looks and feels like bad heartburn. Nausea, dizziness, an unshakable sense that something is wrong that they cannot defend in words. Because this picture does not match what most women have been taught to look for, the average delay before a woman over 60 calls for help runs 20 to 30 minutes longer than a man in the same situation. In cardiac terms, 30 minutes is not a delay. 30 minutes is the difference between a heart that heals and a heart that scars for life. The rule is short. If something feels wrong and you cannot explain it, you call. You do not wait for the version you remember from a movie, because for most people, that version was never the real one to begin with. Now the 3 techniques for the time spent waiting. Before I teach any of them, I want to be honest about what they are and what they are not. These techniques buy time. They do not replace an ambulance. They do not give you permission to skip the call. Your first move is always the call. What I am about to walk you through is what you do while that call is open and help is on its way. Technique 1. The forced cough. Here is what is happening inside the chest during an event driven by a dangerous arrhythmia, meaning the heartbeat has become irregular and briefly ineffective. The heart loses its usual rhythm, output drops, blood flow to the brain begins to fall. Inside a few seconds, lightheadedness can set in. Inside a minute or two, you can slip into unconsciousness. When you take a deep breath and then cough with real force, you push pressure up inside the chest cavity. That pressure acts as a mechanical pump. It shoves blood forward, toward the brain and toward the central organs. And in certain types of arrhythmia, that chest pressure change can briefly interrupt the abnormal rhythm and allow a more stable one to take over. The window is narrow. It is the first 2 to 3 minutes after onset. Here is the exact motion. You breathe in deeply, fill the lungs completely, and then you cough, hard. Not a polite throat clear, not a half cough. A real one, driven from the lower chest, the way you cough when something is genuinely stuck. Inhale, cough. Inhale, cough. Repeat that pair every 2 seconds. Keep going as long as you are awake and physically able. 60 seconds of well-executed coughing can preserve meaningful circulation to your brain while your electrical system struggles to reset. That is a movement. Nothing fancy, no device, no second person, just breath and a real cough. Pause on that for a second. What stands between you staying conscious and you losing consciousness in those early minutes might genuinely be whether you know how to breathe and cough the right way. Quick question before we move on. Do you know your resting heart rate? A real number. Drop it in the comments. There is a specific reason I am asking, and I will walk through what it tells you in a future video. Technique 2. The sternal thump. I want to give you the warning before the technique, because this one is sharper and the cautions are real. The mechanism. A sharp, controlled strike delivered to the center of the breastbone can generate a small mechanical electrical pulse across the muscle of the heart. In specific types of arrhythmia, inside the first few minutes, that pulse can sometimes shock the rhythm back into a workable pattern. Think of it as a primitive defibrillator, built into your own hand. It is a tool of absolute last resort, not a routine move. A move for when nothing else is in the room. How you do it. You make a soft fist, using the padded part at the base of your palm, just above the wrist, not the knuckles. You strike the center of your breastbone, firm, controlled, deliberate. Not a wild swing, not a gentle tap. 2 or 3 strikes, each one with intent. Now, the warnings, and please carry them with you. If you have been told you have osteoporosis, or if you have any reason to believe your bone density is reduced, this move carries a real risk of breaking a rib, or worse, the sternum itself. If you are on any kind of blood thinner, warfarin, a DOAC, anything that thins the blood, this technique is not for you. You need to know your own body on this one before a crisis starts, not during it. If either of those applies, you skip it. You put your energy into the cough and the breathing. Every tool has a list of people it does not belong to. Knowing which list you are on is part of being ready. Technique 3. The pressure point in the hand. I know this one sounds soft for a cardiologist to teach. Here is the physiology that earns it a place. The point sits in the web of soft tissue between your thumb and your index finger. Firm, steady pressure there stimulates the parasympathetic side of your nervous system. That is the side that calms things down. It is the counterweight to the fight or flight surge. During a cardiac event, panic can build very fast. And what panic does to the body is not a feeling, it is a measurable shift. Adrenaline spikes, blood pressure jumps, heart rate climbs. The situation that was already dangerous becomes more dangerous. Waking up the parasympathetic branch works directly against that. It does not stop the event. I will say that out loud. But it cuts the size of the panic response, and that alone is worth doing. How to do it. Take the thumb of your opposite hand and press firmly into that webbing. Hold steady pressure, working in small, slow circles. While you do that, you take control of your breathing. Inhale slowly through the nose for 4 counts. Exhale slowly through the mouth for 6 counts. The exhale always longer than the inhale. That longer exhale is what activates the vagal response. That is the wiring that lets slow, deliberate breathing slow a runaway heart. Switch hands every 30 seconds. This will not stop the cardiac event. I want to be clean about that. What it does is shrink the panic spiral, keep your head clearer, and give the other two techniques better conditions in which to work. A clear mind in the middle of those minutes is not a luxury. It is genuinely a clinical edge. Panic is not neutral. It pushes the situation downward. And you can push back. Now the full sequence, because knowing the pieces without knowing the order is its own kind of disaster. Step 1. Call your emergency number. This comes first, every time, no exceptions. Put the phone on speaker the moment it connects. Free up your hands. Give your address clearly, slowly, the way the dispatcher will repeat it back. Tell them you believe you are having a cardiac event. Keep the line open. Do not hang up. Follow whatever the dispatcher tells you. Step 2. Get low. Sit down or lower yourself gently to the floor. Do not walk to the front door. Do not try to meet the paramedics at the street. Do not try to find anything in another room. If you lose consciousness, which is very possible, you want to already be as close to the ground as you can manage. That one decision protects your head from damage when you go down. Step 3. Aspirin, only where it fits. If you have plain aspirin in the house, consider chewing 1 tablet now, not swallowing it, chewing it. Chewed aspirin absorbs fast, faster than swallowing it whole. It works against the clot that is usually involved in the event. This step has firm conditions. You only chew it if you have no known allergy to aspirin, no active stomach ulcer, and you are not currently on any blood thinner. If you are unsure about any of those 3, leave it alone. The paramedics will make that call when they are in front of you. Step 4. The techniques. Forced coughs first, then the hand pressure paired with the slow 4 and 6 breathing. Keep both going until help arrives. Phone call first, floor second. Aspirin only if it is appropriate. Techniques while you wait. Keep that order. Now, what you do on every other day. Because the real goal, the one that matters most, is to never need the sequence at all. Evening protocol, 2 hours before sleep. Screens off. Phone, tablet, television, laptop, all of them. The blue light from those screens suppresses melatonin production inside the brain. Most people only know melatonin as the sleep hormone, the thing that helps you drift off. What a lot fewer people know is that melatonin is also one of the body's strongest antioxidants, and it plays a direct protective role in the inner lining of your blood vessels. Years of chronic blue light exposure at night are tied, in the research that has been building now for more than a decade, to measurable increases in cardiovascular risk. Heavy meals within 2 to 3 hours of sleep create a separate load. Digestion pulls significant blood flow, and the heart ends up working through the exact window when it should be shifting into its natural recovery cycle. Dim the lights in the last hour before bed. Light food only. If you need to eat, keep it light. Same bedtime every night. Your cardiovascular system responds to consistency at night more than most people understand. Show up at the same time. The body rewards that. Morning protocol. Tonight before you sleep, fill a glass with room temperature water and leave it on your nightstand. Tomorrow morning, before you stand up, before your feet hit the floor, before you check your phone, before anything, you drink it. Across 6 to 8 hours of sleep, your body loses fluid steadily, through breath and through perspiration. By morning, your blood is thicker, and thicker blood clots more easily. The window between roughly 5 in the morning and 10 is the highest risk window of the entire day for cardiac events. That is not a coincidence. Overnight dehydration stacks on top of the body's natural cortisol surge when it wakes, and together, they push risk upward. A glass of water before you rise pulls in the other direction, 30 seconds, every morning for the rest of your life. I give this to every patient I see over 50. Nutrition, practical and direct. What to fold into your regular eating. Fatty fish 2 to 3 times a week. Salmon, mackerel, sardines, herring. The omega-3 in those fish reduces inflammation inside the walls of your arteries. Berries on a rotation. Blueberries, blackberries, strawberries. The anthocyanins in them support how your blood vessels function. Oatmeal as a base, not a once-in-a-while thing. The soluble fiber in oats binds cholesterol in the gut and carries it out of the body. Olive oil as your default fat, not as a finishing touch. The polyphenols in it protect the inner lining of your arteries and support healthier blood pressure over time. What to pull back from, consistently. Processed and ultra-processed meats. Sausages, bacon, packaged deli cuts, hot dogs. They stack up sodium, nitrates, and fats that quietly push systemic inflammation upward and slowly damage the lining of your arteries over years. Not perfection, direction. Those are two completely different standards, and only one of them is actually sustainable for the long run. And now the thing I promised at the very beginning, the single factor that decides whether any of this actually works, when you need it. Here it is. For a meaningful share of the people listening right now, everything I just taught you will not work exactly when you need it. Not because the techniques are wrong. They are documented, and they work under the right conditions. It is because of what your brain does in real panic. When acute fear arrives, when you are alone, in pain, and frightened, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that plans, that reasons, that sequences steps, goes significantly offline. The body falls back on what it already knows. Patterns, trained motions, things your muscles can do without you thinking about them. If the very first time you ever run through the cough technique is when you are alone, in pain, and scared, you will almost certainly do it wrong. You might forget the order. You might do a polite, half-hearted cough when what you need is a real one. You might freeze and do nothing. Watching a video once is not the same as training a response. They live in different parts of you. What saves a life in those minutes is what your body already knows how to do without being told. So here is what I want you to do. Not this weekend, not when you get around to it. Tonight. Sit in a chair, set a timer for 60 seconds, practice the cough. Deep breath in, hard cough out. Repeat. Let your chest learn the motion, not just your memory. Then find the soft web between your thumb and your index finger. Press into it. 3 full cycles of 4 in, 6 out. Let your nervous system rehearse being calm, so it remembers how to find that state when it needs to. 2 minutes total. That is the entire ask. That is what the difference looks like. Then tell someone who is regularly near you what you just learned. A partner, a neighbor, an adult child, a close friend. Not only so they know the techniques, although they absolutely should, it is because having someone nearby who recognizes what is happening and acts on it before the person can fully process it themselves changes outcomes significantly. Most survivors of cardiac events that happened around other people survived partly because someone else saw what was unfolding before they could. Before you close this out, I want to ask you something direct. Have you ever had a moment you brushed off? A strange pressure in your chest that came and went? A breathlessness with no clear reason? A wave of dizziness you decided was probably nothing? Probably stress? Probably just age? Write about it in the comments below. I read every single one. I suspect a lot of people watching this carry that story and have not told it to anyone. In an upcoming video, I will walk through the warning signs that show up weeks, sometimes months before a cardiac event. The signals that, if you catch them early, mean you may never need any of what I taught you today. Subscribe so that one does not slip past you. If this was useful, a like helps the people around you, the ones you care about, find it when they need it. I'm Dr. Sophia. Stay aware, stay ready.